Mechanic Dan here with Runyon Surface Prep, and today we're going to be doing the third in the series on the LD6. Today we're going to be talking about the electrical. Alright, we're going to talk about the electrical system on this thing right now. Standard 12 volt system, just like your car battery, 12 volt. It's got a couple odd little things. You got your 12 volts running to your Briggs & Stratton Vanguard engine. It uses that 12 volts to your main fuel solenoid. Since you don't have that anymore, it's not gas, it's turned into a propane system. That carburetor's out of there. We use that 12 volts that's going to that lockout, and we send it to our lockout coil for the propane. So we just use that 12 volts that works with the key and without the key. Once you turn it off and on, that turns your lockout coil on as long as you have oil pressure. I'll get to that here in a minute. It also has a hydraulic flow amplifier. As you rev up your speed on your hydraulic, we're going to call that a potentiometer. It works similar to a potentiometer, but it doesn't do it exactly like that. The voltage is a little different, and it has a transformer in line, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So as far as the engine goes, the only power you need is the 12 volts from the key that used to go to your carburetor lockout. Now it goes to your propane lockout. Now to get into the rest of the system, you used to have, but we do away with, on each side is an actuator that tilts and pivots your pork chops. We ended up doing away with those and just locking those solid for our polishing, because people would be hitting the button and get one side way up and the other side flat or down, and it would wear out the thrust bearing that I was talking about earlier on one side. So what we've done away with the actuators, put solid bars in there so your pork chops stay good and level, and it's on a spherical bearing, so they're going to stay flat. All right, the next system we'll talk about is the propane system. You want to come look? What we've done, we've taken that 12 volts that used to go up to the carburetor, we've brought it into our lockout coil and to our oil sending unit to ground. You have to have that in line with your oil sending unit, or this thing can leak fuel while it's just sitting there. If somebody leaves the key on, you'll fill up a trailer full of propane, and hopefully it doesn't spark and go boom. So be sure and use your oil sending unit on that. All right, that's pretty basic as far as your propane system. That's just two lines, off and on, and your oil sending unit. Now comes the fun part. What they've done in this system is they've put a little transformer in that goes from 12 volts down to 5 volts. And this is running what's called an amplifier. This amplifier is controlled by your speed valve for your hydraulic. We're going to call that a potentiometer. As you rev it up, it gives it more voltage. As you bring it down, it gives it less. It uses two voltages. It's a little more complicated than that, but we'll say that. So this amplifier down on the pump itself, as you adjust your speed and give it more voltage, it opens up your pump and allows oil to flow. And as that pressure flows, it starts moving your paddles. The more voltage, the further open it is, the faster your paddles go. This little amplifier right here goes into your flow valve on your pump. As you apply your throttle with your potentiometer, give it voltage, it opens up this solenoid and allows oil to flow through. They end up bringing this thing down in voltage. They take it from 12 volts down to 5 volts to run that actuator, that amplifier down there with your throttle, your potentiometer. But I got to looking when I first started going through these systems. This was causing a lot of problems with little things. So I got the diagram out and I took time and I drew out every circuit that this little transformer was in. It seems like it has its little fingers in everything. So this thing can really be troublesome, and you'll know this is the problem because you'll keep blowing the second fuse from the bottom. If you happen to notice, as you're running, you keep blowing this second fuse. It's this little transformer right down in here. And this little guy right here goes from 12 volts to 5 volts, sits right down in there. It'll do several things. It's not just one thing that creates a problem when this goes bad. It can have lower voltage than you need. Your potentiometer acts funny. Other things start acting funny. Just change it right off the bat. It'll save you a lot of hassle. So this transformer, the amplifier, and this potentiometer all work in circuit. But two other things work in circuit with it. The seat switch, you have to be sitting on the seat, and then you activate your foot pedal to activate your paddles. Once those two are activated, then this transformer voltage can go to the amplifier, and you can use your potentiometer, your speed level. So be sure and check your seat if you have a problem. You can start the engine, you can do everything, but your paddles will not spin if your seat switch is bad. Also, that switch for your foot switch is down there in all the slurry and all the mess. Those have a tendency to go bad every once in a while. That's an easy one to diagnose. Just bypass it real quick, see if it works. If it doesn't, you'll know it's that switch. So just remember, regular 12-volt system with the engine. The hydraulic system is run off that flow valve, that accelerometer. This potentiometer brings up the voltage, transformer gives it its voltage. So if you have any problems, just go to each individual circuit, and it's really easy to diagnose once you separate the circuits. And the only other circuit is the 12 volts going to your lockout coil to your propane. And always run that through your oil sending unit for safety. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us here at Runyon Surface Prep. This has been Mechanic Dan for Runyon Surface Prep. Thank you.